All right, today I need to change the main seal on this 2006 GMC 2500 HD 4x4 with the Duramax. You can see the oil leaking out down here. I looked up online to see if there's something else it could possibly be. A lot of times it can be the PCV system leaking from up on top or the turbo return lines, but mine is not leaking from there. It's completely dry up there. Everything looks good. So the truck has 250,000 miles on it. They're just about to turn 250,000 miles. It's been a great truck. I've towed many heavy trailer loads with this thing. Like you can see the oil on here from it streaming back. But it's been a great truck. It's hauled a lot of heavy weight. Had almost zero problems with it. I think I've done a starter, an alternator, water pump, just some basic stuff. But you know, compared to my Ford, my 06 Ford, this thing has been just a dream. So looks like it's not gonna be too bad. I'm gonna end up taking off this cross member for sure. You know, the bell housing bolts, the front rear drive shaft, shift linkage. These fuel lines will stay here. They'll go off to the side and do the electrical. I have to do the cooler lines. I'm going to change those while I'm in there. One of them's starting to leak. It's sweating oil up in the front. I changed another one a few years ago. They got damaged, but I'm just going to change them both so they're fresh. I'm going to pull this exhaust bracket off. Looks like the exhaust is going to be able to stay. Yeah, the exhaust can stay. But it has this, because the four-wheel drive, well, I guess even the two-wheel drive probably have it, but the torsion bar brace back here, instead of taking that off, I think I'm just going to take the transfer case off. If I really wanted to leave the transfer case on, I could probably just relax the torsion, slide them out, pull the bracket off, but that seems like more work than just pulling the transfer case off. From what I looked up online, it looks like there's about 6 bolts holding the transfer case on. So no big deal. And then I don't know if there's a seal in there or not. I've never had one of these out yet. So if there is a seal, then at least it'll give me a chance to change that seal while I'm in there. And this transmission's seen a lot of heat, you know, done a lot of towing with it. So yeah, it looks like a fun day. So I've already ordered the seal. Hopefully I don't run into anything else that I need. Then I can get this thing done in one day, or at least get started today and finish it up tomorrow. Now that the compressor shut off, here's what we're doing. I'm going to start with the drive shaft, the front drive shaft, get that loosened up. I don't know if it slides out of here or not. I'm going to try to just leave it on there if it's not too big of a deal, because it looks like it's got clamps on here, almost like a CV boot type of thing, and I don't want to have to pull those. I'll replace them. So I'll try to leave that with the transfer case. So I'll try to do the front drive shaft, I'll pull the rear drive shaft. I'll get a tranny jack under here to support the weight so I can pull this cross member out, and then I'll just start unhooking peripheral stuff, shift linkage lines, electrical, all that kind of stuff, and then we'll see what we got, one thing at a time. Got this real nice set of ratchet wrenches years ago by Proto. Too dark in here to read that, but real nice thin box end right here. They're great wrenches. So far I haven't even broken one. I lost one on a tractor one time. Actually, it wasn't that long ago, a couple months ago. Thought it was gone, so I looked online. I couldn't find the same one to replace it, so I bought one that I found in Germany, Stahl Willy, however they say that. And that's a great wrench, I love it. But then I went back and I was working on that machine again, and I found the wrench. It was laying in there on the frame of a Caterpillar tractor. Had been bouncing down the haul roads for a couple of months, and it was just sitting there waiting for me. I was going to put it in neutral so I could spin this, but I'll just If I can get to that one from here. So all this stuff I'm taking off today is all factory. I've never had to pull this drive shaft. I've never pulled this transfer case, none of this stuff. Stuff's been on here for 13 years. 250,000 miles. I don't even mind working on it. If it can last 250,000 miles, that's I owe it a thanks. I owe GM a thanks for making a decent vehicle. Oh, this is light. One thing I got too for this, the output seal is starting to weep a little bit on the transfer case, so I bought a seal for that too. So that's something else we'll be changing. He's about 5 pounds. Yeah, so I have this seal here. I'm going to change it while I'm here. It's starting to weep. So, here, some electrical line on that. Pliers and squeeze those little tabs on that, as well as this one, so I don't break them when I get them off. Try to take them off. All right, so I've got all the electrical stuff unhooked from the transfer case. Got the drive shafts out. I've pulled all the bolts, or all the nuts except for one. I just have this bottom nut. As soon as I started loosening the second to last nut, I started getting tranny oil leaking out. So just be aware of that if you're ever doing this. Just have a bucket ready. So what I did here to support the transmission, I put the screw type jack under here, which is really made for, you put it one under each end of the truck or vehicle, in case your CG changes. So if you're pulling something heavy off the vehicle, I have it balanced on the lift here. So when I do go to pull that transmission, it's going to take a lot of weight from the front half, which that could throw it out of balance enough that the back end's going to drop down. So right now I'm using it to hold the transmission in place. Well, I use my transmission jack to get the transfer case out. Once I get the transfer case out, I'll set it on the ground and I'll put this screw jack under the back end to hold the back end up in case when I pull the transmission I take it out of balance. And then I'll come back over with the transmission jack, put it under the transmission, and use it, to get the transmission out and to put it back in. Well, one other thing, some of the nuts on the top fortunately they weren't very tight. I was able to get them with this stubby wrench. They're actually a 15 millimeter, but this 5/8 worked. But there's just not enough clearance up there for a full-size wrench, no room for an impact. Fortunately, I don't live where it snows. We don't get salt through the roads or anything like that. So I didn't have any rust on the nuts or the studs, so they came out pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and get the jack under there now, and I'll pull this transfer case out. We'll get it out of the way. Fortunately, these transfer cases, they get a little wonky in here, and I'm going to be pulling or leaving this cross member here, for the torsion bars. So it's going to get a little weird. I'll try my best not to drop it. I'll get it in there, get it wrestled loose, and then I have to do some pivoting and maneuvering to get it out of there. Fortunately, at the top of this jack, you can make multiple adjustments, so I can come on sideways and clamp it down with a chain or something. I'm going to just try to come up here somewhere, and then when I pull it loose, I'll just jack it up to where it levels out and it's sitting flat on the jack. And we'll try that and see what happens. Worst case, I drop it. I have to go buy a new case. Can't be too heavy. I've seen videos of guys just lifting it right out of there. But that's a young man's sport. When I was young and dumb, I used to do stuff like that. When I learned to work a little smarter, take care of my body a little bit more. I don't need to wake up with a sore back, sore shoulder. It's free of the transmission. Now, the fun part, I guess. There's a gasket here. I didn't know if it's going to have an O-ring or a gasket. Had a half ton, 91 half ton years ago, and it had an O-ring. Which what sucked about that is when, after being, when it was 20 years old, the O-ring was hard and it was leaking out of there. I pulled the transfer case just for that O-ring. But this is just a simple gasket. So I may take a break here and see if there's one at the dealer locally. And I'd send my son maybe to go pick it up. If not, I can either make a new gasket or I could maybe just salvage this one and just use some sealant on it. I just don't want to create a leak. It's the last thing I want on this truck. That's why we're working on it today. Just to get rid of the only leak it's got. So, okay, I just have to get rid of this bracket. I just have one nut up here on top and then it'll pop off the rubber grommet here. That'll be out of the way. I have the brackets here for the fuel lines. Couple bolts, so we'll just slide that out of the way, and that's it on this side. Besides bell housing bolts, and then on this side you can see that exhaust bracket, and then I just got to pop these cooler lines out, pop the dipstick tube out, and get the bell housing bolts and the torque converter bolts. I haven't looked to see how I tack those yet. I saw one video where the guy pulled the starter out to get to them, and I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case, but it looks like it's going to be because I don't see a window here, unless possibly you get to them from here. I don't know yet, but I don't know. We'll find out when we get there. All right, so I finally got the flywheel torque converter bolts out. There were 6 bolts. Take a 15 millimeter. Looks like they'd also take some type of an Allen too if you had it. That's probably what they use in the factory to put them on, is that Allen. But they have Loctite on them. They were really tight. I had to break them with a 1/2 inch ratchet, but then I was able to pull that out and use a 3/8 ratchet to work them out the rest of the way. So you can see kind of a notch there, that little round cut out there. Let's see, you can get to the bolts through the hole there in the flywheel. That notch I'm talking about right there in the engine block or the bell housing, whatever, the bell housing. But you have to pull the starter, which is a real pain. The thing was really, really tight. I didn't unhook the power. I kind of shorted it out a couple times up in there, but that's the way I do it, I guess. I don't want to have to reset the clock on my radio. I mean, shoot, that'd be too much work. So I've got the fuel lines unhooked. They're just kind of hanging there. The bracket's just kind of hanging there. So I just have the bell housing bolts and the cooler lines, and I'll get the cooler lines right before I go to pull it. One other thing, they don't have a spot to get a bar or screwdriver or something to pry around on the flywheel to turn the engine over to get to the torque converter bolts. So I had to pry up against the torque converter through this window with a pointy bar. It wasn't too bad, but I'm just surprised they didn't have something. I guess you're supposed to drop the front guard up here, pull the fan shrouds off, and get a bolt on the front crank balancer, or socket on the front bolt for the crank balancer, but I wasn't about to go through all that. So anyways, and I've got the dipstick tube as well. I've got to look at that and see. I think it's just a rubber grommet. Yeah, it's just going to pop out. I'll pop it out and just let it hang there. So it took me way too long to get this starter and these flywheel bolts out. It's already 3:30. I think I spent like 45 minutes on those bolts alone. So that's way too much time, but I'll have this thing out probably in another half hour. Yeah, hopefully a half hour. And then we can fix that main seal. All right, I've got the cooler lines off. Got the dipstick tube mostly out. It's gonna finish coming out when the trans comes down. I have all the bolts out except one, I believe, unless there's something hidden that I didn't see or going the other way. Yeah, I've got the tranny jack in here. I've got my support jack on the back of the truck, or support stand, whatever, just in case the center of gravity changes so much on it that it's too heavy in the back. One interesting thing about this truck, you know, with this lift, these short arms, this side here, this is the heavy side. Usually I have the engine side of a vehicle over here. But with this truck, with the 4 doors, the long bed, it's actually, that's the heavy end, which is odd. First time I tried to put it up on here, it just kept wanting to nose down when I had it turned the other way. And, you know, I assumed, you know, diesel engine, heavy block. You know, I assumed that the front would be the heavy end, but it's not, the way this sits on the, you know, the lift sits on the frame. All right, got that pulled out. See what we got. See if she's gonna come loose. Yeah, she's definitely coming loose. I know there's a couple of dowels on here that this tranny sometimes gets stuck on. But not mine, she's coming out. Fortunately, I don't live in the snow country. Don't have to deal with all the ice and or the snow, the salt and the corrosion. All right, let me get a pry bar. About 2 hours and 15 minutes. There's a socket and extension I dropped inside the bell housing when I was trying to get the torque converter bolts out. Tried to fish it out with a magnet, but I couldn't get to it. So I dropped one of the bolts in there too, so I'm not sure where it went, but I don't see it in there. Now I just have to pull the flex plate and flywheel out and get to my main seal. Alright, so I started trying to pull these bolts out of here. And was it a 14 millimeter Allen? Yeah, 14 millimeter. Half-inch gun wouldn't touch it. So I had to back my service truck in here so I could hook up to the big air. Get my 3/4 inch Ingersoll Rand here. Put an adapter in it, and we'll see if this will do it. Oh yeah, one thing I made sure, safety first. Always safety first. Safety switch hard engaged. Got them on. Yeah. Inspect that better later. Cracks to make sure she's not cracking or anything. It's stuck on there. Let's get a bar and pry that off. Yeah, that's my problem. Right there, see that oil? So this is good. I didn't waste half of the day pulling this transmission out, putting it back in for nothing. Definitely is that main seal. That's weird. It's got like a spongy kind of thing there, and then it's got the lip seal. So got a Timken. Yeah, it's just the lip seal. I don't know. I'm gonna have to pull that out and see what that other kind of weird spongy thing is. If, hopefully it's not something else that I have to buy. So if it is, then I'm not going to get this thing running this weekend. You can see the black seal is what I'm talking about, right between the round lip seal and the crank. I'm going to try to leave it in there and see if I can just pull just the lip seal out and see what we have there. All right, so yesterday we took the transmission out and looked at the main seal, and I realized that I was sent the wrong seal by Rock Auto. They just sent me this, the Timken seal, but it's just a regular, rubber seal or whatever they make this stuff out of. And it should be a seal with, it's like a two-piece seal, but it's all one unit. It's got, the steel band inside of it that slides onto the crank, and so you have to have an installer for it as well. So I looked online last night and I ordered the correct seal, and I also ordered the installer tool. Installer tool is about $150. So I guess when I'm done with it, what I'll do is I'll just either put an ad on eBay to rent it out or something, or else I'll just sell it, because I'm not going to need it again. But you do need it. So no sense in trying to put it on with with the chisels or anything like that and ruin it. It's 6 hours of labor to pull the trans and put it back in. So I've got the transmission sitting here on the stand or on the jack. Transfer case is over here on the floor. So what I'm going to do while I'm waiting for the parts to show up, I'm going to take and clean up the transfer case. I'm going to change that output seal. Just clean up that little bit of a mess. I'll drain it all. I'll get the oil that I need. So I can go ahead and change oil in the transfer case. I'm not going to change oil in the transmission. Oil smells good, it's fine. And every time I've ever changed oil in the transmission, where I flushed it out and changed all the oil, that transmission's failed shortly after. So I'm leaving that oil. I'm just going to top it off with whatever I lose from changing the cooler lines, which I'll do that tomorrow as well, change the cooler lines. So it's just going to be a part 2 to this video. Putting the seal in and putting the transmission back in. So anyways, I hope you liked the video. If you do, please like it. If you haven't subscribed already to my channel, please subscribe. It's kind of a varied channel. I'm not just doing one thing. I've got videos of me putting that truck together, doing a road test on it, transmission in this, or not transmission this, but the main seal, the transmission in my son's BMW, some grading work I've done on here, and I've got a video coming up at the quarry with the rock trucks, moving tons and tons of rock. So hopefully I'll get that one out in about a week. I've got more videos coming, so please like and subscribe, and also hit the notification bell as well so you'll know when a new video comes up. So thank you, have a good day.